Germany sells a dream. Strong economy, world-class healthcare, a better life, but locals are sending a warning nobody's talking about. Don't come here without serious money. These are the 10 German cities where even residents can't afford to stay. Number 10. Mainz. Most people haven't heard of Mainz. That's exactly the problem. Mainz sits on the Rhine, just across the water from Wiesbaden, and a short train ride from Frankfurt. It's a medium-sized city, charming, historical, manageable, exactly the kind of place people move to when they want to escape the big city chaos, but still access big city salaries. And that logic has backfired spectacularly, because everyone had the same idea. Demand surged, housing supply didn't, and Mainz is now charging rents that would have seemed absurd 10 years ago, averaging around 15 to 16 euros per square meter, with prices still climbing. What makes Mainz particularly frustrating for locals is the perception gap. It doesn't feel like a major city. It doesn't have the skyline or the status, but it carries a price tag that says otherwise. It's a warning sign of a larger trend we'll see throughout this list: the proximity premium. If you're near somewhere valuable, you pay for it. Full stop. Number 9. Freiburg im Breisgau. If you've ever seen photos of Freiburg, you understand why people want to live there. Nestled at the edge of the Black Forest, with a medieval old town, one of Germany's best universities, and a reputation as the country's sunniest and most eco-conscious city, Freiburg is, by almost every measure, beautiful. It's also becoming quietly unaffordable. Rents in Freiburg have been climbing into the 15 to 17 euro per square meter range, driven by a combination of its university population, its lifestyle appeal, and a critical shortage of new construction. The city is geographically constrained. Mountains on one side, the French border on the other, which means there's simply nowhere to build. Students and young professionals flood in every year. Long-term residents find themselves priced out of neighborhoods they've lived in for decades. Here's the deeper irony. Freiburg built its identity around sustainability and community, but skyrocketing rents are quietly dismantling both, pushing the very people who built the city's culture further and further out. Number 8. Heidelberg. Heidelberg is postcard Germany. The castle ruins, the Neckar River, the ancient university, one of the oldest in the world. Tourists come from everywhere. Students compete fiercely for places, and expats looking for a small but prestigious German city consistently land here. The result? A housing market that functions less like a city and more like a bidding war. At roughly 16 euros per square meter on average, Heidelberg punches well above its weight. For a city of only 160,000 people, the prices rival cities 5 times its size. Why? Because Heidelberg has something money can't manufacture: reputation. And reputation, in the housing market, is the most expensive commodity of all. Locals describe searching for apartments for months, only to find themselves outbid by international academics or visiting researchers on institutional housing budgets. For the average young German trying to build a life there, the math simply doesn't work. Number 7. Cologne. Cologne is the city that surprises people. It's not as financially dominant as Frankfurt, not as glamorous as Munich. It's loud, it's chaotic, it celebrates carnival with a kind of feverish dedication that confuses outsiders. And yet, it ranks consistently among Germany's most expensive places to live. Central one-bedroom apartments regularly land between €1,000 and €1,300 cold rent. The overall cost of living has been rising steadily, driven by a combination of tourism, a massive student population, and one of Germany's most active cultural scenes. But here's what catches people off guard. Cologne's identity as a fun, working-class, gritty city has made people underestimate its costs. They arrive expecting Berlin prices and find something considerably steeper, especially in the desirable neighborhoods close to the Rhine. Locals with long memories will tell you, Cologne used to be for everyone. Increasingly, it isn't. Number 6. Düsseldorf. 40 minutes up the Rhine from Cologne sits Düsseldorf, and the two cities couldn't feel more different. Where Cologne is loud and rough-edged, Düsseldorf is polished, corporate, and fashion-forward. It's home to Germany's largest Japanese expat community, a world-class art scene, and the kind of boutique shopping streets that signal serious money. That money has consequences. One-bedroom rents in desirable areas sit between 1,000 and 1,300 euros, and the overall cost of living reflects the city's status as a business and executive hub. Düsseldorf regularly appears on lists of Germany's most expensive cities, not because of extreme outliers, but because of consistent, elevated costs across the board. Non-executives and young professionals describe a particular kind of pressure in Düsseldorf, the sense of living in a city designed for a financial tier you haven't quite reached yet. Everything works beautifully. Everything is just slightly out of reach. Number 5. Stuttgart. Stuttgart doesn't get talked about enough, and that might be part of why it catches people off guard. This is the home of Mercedes-Benz and Porsche, of Bosch, of major engineering conglomerates, of some of the highest average salaries in Germany. The regional economy is among the strongest in all of Europe. But here's what that industrial wealth does to housing. It inflates everything. When your city's workforce is populated by engineers earning serious six-figure salaries, landlords price accordingly. One-bedroom apartments in central Stuttgart regularly exceed 1,100 euros in cold rent. The surrounding region, towns and suburbs that might once have offered relief, has felt the pressure too, as Stuttgart workers push outward in search of anything affordable. The cruel twist? The very companies that made Stuttgart prosperous have also made it, for many people, unlivable. It's a city that creates wealth efficiently and shares it unevenly. Number 4. Hamburg. Hamburg is where the list starts to get serious. Germany's second-largest city, a UNESCO Creative City of Music, one of Europe's busiest ports, Hamburg carries the kind of energy that draws people from all over the world, and the market has responded accordingly. Average rents sit between 14 euros and 17.50 euro per square meter, depending on the district, with popular waterfront and inner-city neighborhoods pushing significantly higher. A one-bedroom in the center frequently runs 1,100 euros to 1,600 euros cold. Factor in utilities, food, transport, and the general cost of Hamburg life, and single-person monthly expenses can approach 2,200 euros or more. Locals in neighborhoods like Altona or Eimsbüttel, once working-class strongholds, describe a transformation that happened almost without warning. The organic cafes moved in, the rents moved up, the people who built the neighborhood moved out. Hamburg has strong tenant protections, but finding a unit in the first place has become an exercise in competitive endurance. Hundreds of applicants per listing. Landlords choosing based on income certificates, credit scores, and references layered on top of each other. The city is magnificent. Getting a foothold in it is something else entirely. Number 3. Berlin. Berlin was supposed to be the exception. For years, decades, it was the anti-Munich. The city for artists, anarchists, and anyone who wanted to build something without being priced out before they started. Poor but sexy, as the famous slogan went. That was Berlin's whole brand. That brand is now almost entirely historical. Average rents in Berlin are approaching 18 euros per square meter in 2025. Central one-bedrooms regularly exceed 1,200 euros cold rent. The city that once welcomed the underfunded and the experimental now runs hundreds of applicants per apartment listing. A generation of Berliners who shaped the city's global reputation are being pushed into the outer boroughs, or out of the city entirely. What happened? Berlin became too successful at being Berlin. The international attention it earned through its culture, its nightlife, its creative economy, it attracted capital. And capital, in the housing market, wins almost every time. The city introduced rent controls. Landlords found workarounds, particularly through furnished, temporary lets, which bypass regulations entirely. The legal fights continue. In the meantime, the rents keep rising. Long-term residents describe something more than financial frustration. There's a genuine grief to it, watching the city that defined a generation of European counterculture slowly transform into something indistinguishable from every other expensive European capital. Number 2. Frankfurt am Main. Frankfurt is the city that surprises people with its ambition. From the outside, it can look modest, a mid-sized German city with a cluster of skyscrapers and a busy airport. But that skyline tells a different story. Frankfurt is home to the European Central Bank, to Deutsche Bank, Commerzbank, and dozens of other major financial institutions. It is, without question, the financial capital of continental Europe, and it prices like it. Average rents sit around 19 to 20 euros per square meter, with central one-bedrooms regularly running 1,200 euros to 1,800 euros cold. A single person living comfortably in Frankfurt, including rent, food, transport, and basic expenses, can expect to spend somewhere around 2,350 euros per month. Minimum. What makes Frankfurt particularly challenging is the income polarization it creates. At the top end, financial sector salaries are extraordinary. But Frankfurt is also a city of service workers, educators, hospital staff, and public employees. People earning average German wages in a city priced for bankers. The result is a housing market where the phrase, "I can't afford to live where I work," has become alarmingly common. Not among struggling artists, among professionals with solid careers. Number 1. Munich. There was never any real question about what would top this list. Munich is, by almost every available metric, the most expensive city in Germany. It has been for years, and in 2025, it shows no meaningful signs of becoming more accessible. Average asking rents now exceed 22 euros per square meter. A one-bedroom apartment in the city centre, cold rent only before utilities, routinely runs between 1,500 euro and 2,000 euros. Factor in the actual cost of living in Munich, and a single person can expect monthly expenses approaching 2,600 euros. That's not a luxury lifestyle. That's the baseline. Locals describe the search for housing as something between a competitive sport and a lottery. Listings disappear within hours. Applicants submit full dossiers, income proof, credit checks, employer references, personal letters, and still don't hear back. Families with children, elderly residents on fixed incomes, young professionals just starting their careers, all increasingly squeezed to the margins or out of the city entirely. Why does Munich stay at the top? Because everything that makes it expensive also makes it desirable. Strong economy, low crime, world-class infrastructure, proximity to the Alps, a quality of life that consistently ranks among Europe's highest. The demand is real. The supply hasn't kept pace for decades, and the gap between what Munich offers and what most people can realistically afford to pay for it has become one of the defining social tensions of modern Germany. Munich isn't just an expensive city. It's a symbol of what happens when a housing market is left. So what's driving all of this? The same forces across every city. Too little housing, too much demand, and a system that protects people already inside it, but offers almost nothing to those trying to get in. Germany built something great. Affording entry to it is the real challenge. If you're considering a move, go in with clear eyes and a strong income, or the dream gets expensive fast. If this helps, subscribe and like the video. We cover exactly this kind of real, unfiltered content every week. And drop your target city in the comments. See you in the next one.